My name's Lowry. I grew up in Clearwater. My parents got divorced when I was 2, and I was raised mainly by my mom. My mom is a Catholic, but she's not a practicing Catholic, so I didn't have a lot of religion in my life as I was growing up. My dad was in the Coast Guard, and he was all over the country, and he was a Christian, but I wouldn't also say that he was necessarily a practicing Christian, but he did introduce Jesus into my life in small ways. So I sort of knew of Jesus, but not really my own relationship with him. I mainly just knew my family's Jesus. So as a kid growing up, just a normal kid in Clearwater, but in my teen years, I started to really follow the wrong crowd and get involved with some really bad things. Drinking, using drugs at even the age of 14, and just really started to go down a really bad path for the high school years and even after. When I was 17, I got into a real toxic, abusive relationship that, again, just involved lots of drugs and alcohol and really unhealthy habits and things that I was following. At that time in my life, I really didn't have any kind of care about any right or wrong, and the people that I was surrounding myself with were the same. Many of the girls that I would call my best friends and I were all just in unhealthy relationships, and many of them had abortions. When I was 21 years old, I was still in the same relationship that had so many ups and downs and crazy twists and turns. But I came to a point in my life where I thought that I was pregnant for the first time. I was experiencing that. And one of my friends told me that there was a place I could go to get a pregnancy test. That was really all I knew. I just asked, what do? I think I might be pregnant. And she said, there's a place that you can go. And again, it was in Clearwater. So at the time, it was on US 19, and they had a pregnancy center there. And outside of the pregnancy center, there was a sign that said free pregnancy tests. That's all I really thought I was going there to do, is get a pregnancy test and find out if I was pregnant, knowing in my mind that if I was pregnant, I was definitely going to have an abortion. There was nothing in my mind or in my life at that time that told me abortion was wrong. So I knew if I am pregnant, that's what I'm going to do. It's just not even a big deal. That's what everybody did, and that was my plan. Thankfully, God had another plan. When I walked in, I sort of realized that there was something different about the place that I was in, and being the way that I was at that time, so hard to my sin, I started to realize, I think I'm in a Christian place, and I didn't want to be there because I wasn't a Christian, and I thought Christians were crazy. So I said, let me just get this over with, and went into the room to take the pregnancy test. And at that time, before they tell you the results of the test, they ask, what are you going to do? What led you to this point in your life where you think you're facing an unplanned pregnancy? And, being confronted with those kinds of questions, and again, with how hard my heart was, I didn't want to face why I had been in that position or what led me to it. So I was very kind of hostile towards the situation and probably very hard to talk to. But the counselor was just an incredible human being who just loves other people, and she was just willing to love me even in my hardness of heart. And she said, I understand you're scared, but can I just pray with you before you go? And I, at the time, said, sure, whatever you have to do so that I can leave. because still in my heart I was planning to have an abortion. And she prayed with me, and I think that that was probably one of the first times that somebody had truly prayed with me and for me. And her prayer was that God has a plan for me and my baby, which at the time I didn't realize how much that broke through my heart. I left that day still planning to have the abortion. Everyone in my life told me that's what I should do. The only people that didn't was the people at the pregnancy center. And I kept thinking about one thing that they said was that if you do have the abortion, we also offer abortion grief counseling. And thinking back, how amazing that is, that they're not judging you. They're not saying they're going to throw you aside because you're an evil, horrible murderer. They're saying we're still going to be here for you because you might need some support even if you make that decision. And that really stuck with me because it made me think maybe I'm not going to be okay. Maybe if I do this, I'm going to have grief and I'm going to regret it. Even still, with pressure from all around, I made the appointment to have the abortion. And I had to wait a week. Luckily, they didn't say come tomorrow. I had to wait a week, and over that week, my heart just kept going back to that prayer and to her words that said, God has a plan for you and your baby. And the day before my appointment, I changed my mind. And I decided, I can't do this. I need to see, maybe there is a God. Maybe there is a plan. Maybe this baby is worth a chance. So I decided to have my baby. And when I was 4 months pregnant, someone invited me to a church. And I walked into the church, and I remember the song on the church service as I was walking in was "Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart." And I just started pouring out my soul and crying, and I surrendered my life to Jesus that day when I was 4 months pregnant. I continued going to the pregnancy center for support. I took classes about how to raise a baby, how to take care of a baby. I knew nothing about any of this, but they were there for me the whole time. They were supporting me. They provided me with things that I needed. The most important thing that they provided me was strength and courage and, believing in my own self. I didn't believe that I could raise a baby, especially alone, but I did. And being saved and giving my life to Jesus changed everything. Before my son Liam was 1 year old, I was able to buy a home for us. I raised him as a single parent for 3 years until I met my husband, Robert, and we got married when Liam was 6 years old. We had another child, his name is Isaac, and we moved to Land O'Lakes. Just everything changed for the better. The Lord provided all of the things that I was afraid would not work out, all of the things that I was afraid would ruin my life, because that's what the world says, that if you have a baby and you're not prepared for it, that baby will ruin your life. They were all lies. He didn't ruin my life. He gave me a life. He gave me purpose. He gave me the reason to live. And it's just everything that the pregnancy center did. I'm just so thankful and grateful that they were there. My story is not unique. Hundreds of women experience this same love every year. If I would have went to a Walgreens that day and no one would have spoken to me and no one would have prayed with me and no one would have told me that there was a hope and a future for me and my baby, I would have 100% made a different decision. But because of the courage and because of the resources of the pregnancy center, I was able to receive a different life, and I'm so grateful. I'm thankful for anybody who's willing to support a cause like this, because there's hundreds of women right now, even today, that are facing an unplanned pregnancy, and they may not have people in their life that are willing to support them, or maybe they think that they're alone and they don't have the resources that they need. But these pregnancy centers are full of women who are courageous, and even men who are willing to go out and talk to women like me who have hard hearts and we're full of sin, and then change their lives. What I would like to say to everyone here today is that we're all in different positions. First, feel free to share my testimony if you're ever in a situation where you need to help somebody facing an unplanned pregnancy. And also, please feel free to share about A Woman's Place. These clinics are available. They are at no cost to the woman who needs somebody to talk to. And they have so many resources. Nobody is alone. If you are a woman that has had an abortion in your past, they also offer a program called Passages of Hope, where you can go and there is support, and there is a group of women that are there to support you and walk you through that season of recovery, of laying down your grief at the feet of Jesus, because there is hope and there is love, and this is just an amazing ministry and they deserve our support. So thank you.
Sometimes it feels just like you're caught inside a moment, not really moving but you're going through the motions, trying so hard to find the meaning as your days roll by. I know it sounds impossible, but we're living in a miracle, yeah. The more you look, the more you know that we are not alone. When you see love, leave them on, healing broken hearts. You see chains fall apart, you see hope rise from the dark. It's so much more than ordinary, it's nothing less than extraordinary, no. It's the fingerprints of God. It's written in the way the stars break up the night, the proof, the clarity that opens up our eyes. It's all around and inside of you and I know it sounds impossible, but it's actually a miracle when you see love, leave them on, healing broken hearts. You see chains fall apart, you see hope rise from the dark. It's so much more than ordinary, it's nothing less than extraordinary, no. It's the fingerprints of God. Open your eyes to the signs all around you. Hope is alive and it's living inside you. All creation testifies it. The more you seek, the more you find that love, healing broken hearts. You see chains fall apart, you see hope rise from the dark. It's so much more than ordinary, it's nothing less than extraordinary, no. It's the fingerprints of God. No, there's no such thing as ordinary. We're nothing less than extraordinary, no. And it's who we are, the fingerprints of God.